Hey guys, happy Friday. So, does your life ever feel like a dumpster fire? I mean, damn. You know, I'm smiling, I'm laughing. Anybody who follows me knows I'm generally in a really positive mode, even when shit goes sideways. But I've had lots of times in my life where it was definitely a dumpster fire, and I couldn't see a way out. I could not see a way out. I know the feeling. And it doesn't matter who you are. Sometimes life just gets so fucking complicated. So complicated. It could be, whether it's emotional, financial, logistics of life, or everything all at once, which it likes to do to us. It can be so overwhelming. And the sense of hopelessness, depression, even suicidal feeling, that's just such a horrible thing to experience. And I don't know many adults who haven't experienced that spectrum of negative stuff one way or another. We've all been through it one way or another. And depending on our personal, emotional state, psychological state, some people handle it better than others, There's a lottery in life to that. It's not fair, but it's a reality. And there's a lot in our lives that are out of our control. And but we each have to deal with it. We have to, no matter what our circumstances. So the worst part of that is that, as we all know, if you haven't learned it yet, you will eventually, if you're paying attention. Most of our problems are the result, to a large degree, of decisions we've made. We're responsible for a lot of them. And that can be hard to accept sometimes, and we can really, really tear ourselves apart and get down on ourselves as a result of that. And that's human nature, especially untrained. If you didn't have parents who raised you to learn the skills you need to be able to positively handle your fuck-ups. How to see yourself as fallible, that you made a mistake, and you've been taught how to forgive yourself and work through those mistakes, deal with the consequences. But no matter how you were parented, whatever the consequences that you're dealing with, the crises, you always have the power to control your response. And the more in your daily life that you live rooted and grounded in truth, the reality is that we don't have a whole lot of control over life, you will be able to more calmly and logically deal with your fierce emotions and your anxieties and everything that comes of dealing with a shitty situation or multiple shitty situations, as often happens. What are you going to do? That is life. So, here's kind of what I'm thinking. For me, the key has been learning to let go of my expectations. Yes, I have plans and goals. I do all that stuff. But I work toward them with an honest acceptance of the fact that they're just guidelines. And the reality is, I can't expect the path to go how I would like it to, when I would like it to, or anything. It's totally out of my control. I'll do my best to follow the course, but there's going to be detours, there's going to be pitfalls, there's going to be things are going to change. And if you can move in set those goals and those plans, but move ahead with a state of inspiration and wonder about, okay, let's have this adventure, rather than a rigid expectation that this is what's happening next. Because it's those expectations that you actually have some kind of idea how the hell it's going to happen, how to all go. That's what crushes you and is so debilitating emotionally when things go sideways. when we learn to accept the uncertainties of life, the very nature of life is uncertain, we begin to more readily accept the flow of life. And I mean, everything starts working better, more naturally. You know, you're not all bent out of shape thinking, I got to control every little last detail. You know, it's kind of like the famous Maya Angelou quote where she says, oh gosh, let me get this right. I know it was her. Hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. That quote is so rooted in practical truth of life. You're not going to live in fear. You're not going to live in this state that, oh, something terrible is going to happen. You're going to live in a positive, have positive energy, positive goal, and you're not living in a fantasy at the same time that there won't be a problem getting there. Perfection doesn't exist, and achieving your goals, however they may ultimately manifest, is all a matter of putting your energy forward. And as you do that, things will go certain ways that you're thrilled with, some that you aren't thrilled with, a lot that you didn't even think it was going to go that way, and it does. And that's part of the fun. That's part of being rooted in the truth of life and its uncertainty. A lot of people don't like to be in a state of what would feel like they're insecure. They can't know exactly what's going to happen, or they want a fantasy of, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen, and that makes them feel better. But that ultimately gets real shaky when things don't go right. Anyway, back to the emotional chaos of a legitimately fucked up situation, whatever it may be, and sometimes it's multiple things all at once. There are things you can do, practical. Well, here's a technique that works for me, has worked for me in the past, that I still utilize when I need to. Those who get the in the groove of this, you don't need to do it quite so literally. But here's the thing. I would advise you to carve out some time to literally sit down, breathe, really breathe. Make sure nothing's going to interrupt for a while. I know that can be difficult to find sometimes, but you can do it. Get out some paper and literally write down every challenge that's freaking you out. Whether it's something legit or not, it doesn't matter. Whether it's something you're afraid of, or whether it's a real expense or medical issue, whatever it is, write down everything that has you feeling frightened and chaotic and out of control. And after you've done all that, then you go down the list one by one. And before you even expand on each one, ask yourself this question straight up. Do I have control of this situation? Do I have the power to affect change, legit change in this deal? Now, if that item that you're stressed about is another person and their behavior, you have no power. You have no power. They're the only ones who can change their behavior. They're the only ones who can make it okay in a legitimate, in a lasting, positive way. But if it's other things that you have power to change, be it a financial choice, a medical choice, an emotional relationship, whatever, if you have the power to affect change to that thing, fearlessly write out what your gut says you should do. And after you get through the gut reactions, start thinking logically, start thinking practically about what you can do to change that thing, even if it's frightening to you. Write it down. Write down everything that comes to mind. Do this for every one of those items. Every one of those items. So, when all the analyzing is done, you've got your list in front of you. Go through that list, and for every item on that list that you have no practical power to change, cross it out. Don't black it out. Cross it out so you know what it was that you're consciously deciding to let go of, and you have to let it go. You have to stop putting mental and spiritual energy into that thing, whatever it may be. Because if you have no power to change it, you shouldn't be putting any energy into it, because that's wasted energy. Your resources are finite. You need your energy to go into causes and efforts that you have the power to affect. The other stuff, you've got to let it go. You may find that half your list are things you have no power to change, and you are kicking your own ass over something you have no control over. And believe me, I'm not condemning you, because that was my life story in a lot of ways. So I know of which I speak. I also know from lots of personal experience that it's way easier to say that than to do it. Letting go of those things that have had you bent out of shape for a long time, be it relationships or actual things or problems, we get in a habit of being in this chaotic, panicky headspace. In a lot of ways, we can be so dysfunctional that it's that chaos that makes us feel like we're alive. Because there's shit happening, there's shit to react to, there's a problem. It's a real sick state of mind, and I've been there, used to live there, so I feel you. But the reality is, you don't have to live that way. Letting go is a long process. It takes time. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to forgive yourself. When you realize how much you've hurt yourself over the years, sometimes decades, you have to forgive yourself, and you have to just start letting it go. Thinking about it less. When you do think about it, replace those thoughts with a different subject, one that you have positive control of. And that's how you start working it. It's going to take a long time. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen quickly. But it will happen if it's important to you and if you make it a priority, and you'll start to be freed from those things. So one more practical thing. After you've made that huge list, it's probably going to be a scribbled mess, everything. I want you to get another piece of paper or a small poster, depending on your list, and I want you to write out in a nice fashion each item, what you've decided to do about it, including the ones you're letting go of, and create a document that you're going to post somewhere where you will see it every day, probably multiple times a day, at least a few times a day. And every time you see it, look it over, think about it, remind yourself what you had decided for yourself to do, and affirm it. Remind yourself. In doing this, you start the process, you really get it going. But it's a discipline. It is a legit discipline. But if you will do that, I mean, there's no guarantees in life. I just know it worked for me. I know it's worked for a lot of other people who shared this with me. And you will see change. You will see positive change over time if you really commit yourself to this. So the key is progress, not perfection. You'll have days when you'll fuck up and you'll just ball up into a ball of disaster. We all do. Let it go. Move on to the next day. Each day's a new day. Don't berate yourself. Forgive yourself. Be merciful. Be kind to yourself. And just keep doing the work. Just keep doing the work. I promise you it will reframe your life. And it'll begin to end the chaos that you've been living in. You are the ultimate force for good in your life. You are the ultimate force for everything good in your life. And getting to that place of feeling some serenity and calm, it's an inside job. No one else can do it for you from the outside. I mean, even those who are of a certain faith and they believe in a God or a higher power, that's still coming from inside. It's that higher power working within you. It's an inside job. You have to take action. You have to take authority over those issues and change them for yourselves, and change your perspective. And that's how you get to a place of some actual serenity and some positive energy in your life when it's been nothing but chaos for God knows how long. So in summary, make your list. Be legit honest about what you're dealing with. decide what to do about each thing, make those changes, let go what you need to let go of, and just keep doing it. You know, we our lives are our creation. If your life is chaos, you can change it. You know, my life has been brutal pain for a lot of decades, just living in a horrible place emotionally. While on the outside, I looked great. It was like being a functional alcoholic, you know, where no one would even know, you know, what you're medicating yourself with along the way. And I'm just here to tell you, you don't have to live that way. You have the power to change it, and I hope that you do. I really do. Oh, and lastly, if by the way you've noticed my hair is weird, it's because I'm finally doing what I'm supposed to do for my safety and to protect my family's interests as well. And I'm wearing a freaking helmet on my bike now. Yeah, I never thought the day would come. I couldn't deal with one of those Sporto bike helmets. It's actually a skate helmet, and I can kind of deal with that. But yeah, never thought I'd see the day. So now, every now and then, every day I ride, if I ride anywhere on streets, I'm gonna have this damn thing on, and that leaves me with legit helmet hair. So there's your explanation. Have a great weekend.